have 5:30 on my watch here, and we'll start our meeting. This is a meeting of the Consolidated Commission on Utilities for both GPA and GWA matters. For the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Mchalco, Commissioner Sanchez, and Commissioner Martinez. Commissioner Santos is off island and is excused. First order of business is approval of minutes. Is there a motion? This is the minutes of May 25th, right? Is there a
Motion to approve. the
Motion
minutes.
to approve, is there a second, subject to written correction?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Martinez. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye opposed, nay. Motion carries. Tonight, we have one of our ratepayers for GWA who requested to address the CCU, and I passed out a letter earlier, so, Mr. Flores?
Give him the mic.
I'm going to move over here so that you can address. You can sit down if you want, Mr. Scott, if you want.
You can even sit up here if you like.
If you want
Just so we get you into the microphone. So
Yeah, we
can
just need to
record.
hear your voice.
There's a mic.
You can move up here.
Oh, here you go, here you go, here you go.
Oh, here it is. Okay, so. Go ahead.
My husband and I, John, and my name is May Flores, are here to address a concern that we had. My husband has been trying to chase it down for now 6 years. We haven't really gotten anywhere. I know he's met with a number of people. I think you guys have a copy of the letter in front of you. So we have 4 meters that are actually out by the road and constantly being run over by dump truck and other vehicles. And so my husband has met with several people, to include Mr. Berdavio, who indicated that we have to pay $53,000 to get it done. Now, we don't have the funds for that. So, to our surprise, on the 5th of March of this year, the GWA team were out on our site relocating those meters, but they were only relocated 21 feet. And so we were wondering, why just 21 feet? You know, when they had the manpower there, they could have actually moved it all the way to where we needed it to be. But I guess we were told it's the law. So that's why we're here. Talana Nelson was nice enough to assist us with getting us here before the CCU board to see, you know, what mitigations there are, if any, if we have any other options besides the $53,000, and what we need to do to move it a few more feet to where it needs to be.
Miguel? You want to give some more background?
Sure, sir. The issue was raised by Mr. Flores, I think at first with our engineering department, and he was advised that according to the service rules and regulations, that relocation of a meter and an extension of a main under the service rules and regulations are required to be borne by the customer. The service was established a long time ago, and the meter locations have been there for quite some time. When Mr. Flores was advised that by our engineering department, he came to see me. I took some time to get familiar with the situation and asked for field verification to be done, which was, and I eventually called Mr. Flores back and confirmed what the engineering department had told him, that our service rules and regulations do not allow us to relocate the meter at our expense. If a meter relocation and a main extension is requested, it's at the customer's expense. Mr. Flores advised that if he had the money, he would do it, but he doesn't have the money to relocate those meters. And so we estimated the cost of what it would take. There is a provision in the service rules and regulations that require us to estimate the costs for the customer. If the customer can find someone else to do it for less than that, then they can. If they if they can't, they can ask us to do it, which we offered to do. With regard to the payment, I asked legal counsel to check if there was a means by which a payment contract could be arranged to spread out the payments if it was not affordable for Mr. Flores. We offered that. However, such an arrangement would require that the meters be put into his name because they were currently, the accounts were not under Mr. Flores' name, they were under their tenants' names. So we issued a letter providing all of this information if he wanted to elect this option for us to do the work at a cost, we estimated the cost and we said you would only be charged the actual cost that it would take us to do it, and Mr. Flores did not avail himself of that offer. Subsequently, there were several inquiries made, as Ms. Flores has mentioned, Senator Nelson being the last one, but we did receive inquiries from several senators, and we replied with the same information advising that we had provided a solution and it was not taken.
Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Flores indicated that GWA did move the meters some distance.
So
What was that about?
After the persistent efforts, the indications from all of the senators were that the meters are being damaged, the water lines being damaged by vehicles that are driving on that roadway. The meters were located at the corner of the entrance drive into Mr. Flores' property, so we relocated the meters away from the corner out of the travel area so that to prevent the damage that Mr. Flores was complaining about. So we undertook that in order to prevent further damage to the meters. That was the original complaint. So we did relocate them away from the corner, but still near the right-of-way, in the right-of-way, and the meters were placed closest to the edge of the right-of-way so that there is no traffic in that area. It's off of the pavement on the grass.
Okay. Commissioners, anybody? So in other words, you addressed the immediate issue of damage to the meters.
I addressed the immediate concern about damage to the meters. However, I admit that I did not address it promptly. It was after several additional inquiries were made at Mr. Flores' insistence, and with the intervention of the senators.
Okay. So, Mr. Flores, I give you, if any of the commissioners have any questions? No?
No questions.
Mr. Flores, having heard from our general manager, they did try to address the movement of the meters from the corner. So is that an improvement over where the meters were? I mean,
Yes, however,
okay.
In all fairness, there are others who actually move their meters from the same location right in front of their home.
Okay.
And my husband had taken pictures and showed it. The individual that had their meters relocated indicated that they had no out-of-pocket expense, that GWA did in fact move it, and he's not the only one.
Okay.
I hate to put people's names out there just to indicate that this has been done.
Okay. Can you tell us how long ago that was? When that happened, when some people were here?
We can't verify.
Request?
As with way back in 2018.
Okay.
Okay, and so I had to come in here.
Yes.
I had to prove waterworks. I need a deed that shows that the land
The property.
belongs to me and my
Okay,
wife.
okay.
Okay, so that's what I proved. So they told me, okay, we'll send surveyors or whatever.
They'll send their personnel out to check. Okay. Okay. No, what I was asking was how long Mrs. Flores said that some of your neighbors, their meter was relocated. How long ago was that?
The same month and year when I made the complaint.
So it was in 2018,
Okay, that's all I was asking.
yes.
So,
And they relocated theirs.
There are 3 of the reasons.
and,
It is the same complaint when I
okay.
Okay, relocate your meter there. I just told them that, same as my mother saying, don't talk before running over.
So, your neighbors were in the same situation. Their meters were out on, far away, in the same area. Okay, no, I believe you. I'm not doubting you. I'm just trying to get us to understand a little bit. So in 2018, you're saying that GWA relocated some of those meters in. You know, Mr. Flores, what we're going to do is we're going to have to work with our general manager, and then we'll talk to him about this. We'll verify some of the data. Okay? Is there anything else you want us to know before?
No, but, we just wanna, know just what other options we may have.
Okay.
If that's not, possible, and we certainly do not have the funds to put out
Yeah,
there.
I understand.
And I know that in the, detailed, breakdown of the cost
Uh-huh.
associated with that, I think a fire hydrant was in there. I'm not sure what all that is.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
we're only talking about relocating meters.
Okay. Well, here's what we're going to do. We have all that. I'll get that from the general manager. All the documents you have, he has a copy, I'm sure. So what we'll do is we'll work with him and verify all we're talking about. And we'll see if we can help you, how we can help you, okay?
I do have a question, Mr.
Sure,
Chair.
Commissioner Limtelco.
Thank you. So, aside from the concern of mitigating the damage to the meters, what other benefit is there to getting your meters to where you want them? What benefit is it to you to get them in front of your homes or wherever you need them to go, besides mitigating the damage, which GWA already seems to have addressed?
Okay, I'm not sure when they relocated, the meters, whether that actually took the line, from underneath the paved street, that the actual, road runs into the property. So I don't know that, in the long run, it's gonna be beneficial, I guess, to us if there should be a lease, because that's 300 feet from the house. Everything before the meter, correct, is our responsibility.
After the meeting.
So if there's a
After the meeting.
After the
on
meeting.
paved street, we have to dig that out. So I guess relocating the meters in front of our house where we have access to, I guess the length of the pipes and everything is shortened. And we don't have to go digging, or getting, whatever it is to remove all the pavement on the road to get to the leak.
Miguel, do you know if the water line is actually under the road Mrs. Flores is talking about?
I am not certain where the water lines after the meters run. I know that where we connected them, they were off of the pavement in the grass. My understanding is that they run along, but not under the pavement. They're more off to the side on the grass.
And-
That was my understanding from the field crews, but I haven't verified that. So I
And
may
if
be mistaken.
there's a break in the water line up to where their meter is, GWA is responsible for that anyway, right?
GWA is responsible for the service lateral from our main to the meters.
Right. And so,
And then beyond the meters to the premise is the private property owner's
so
responsibility.
I just want to make sure I'm staying with you. So any damage before your meter is GWA fixes. You don't fix it, right? So I'm with.
From the house to the meter?
No. Your one concern was the pipes that are under the road before your meter. If they get damaged, you have to deal with it. No, GWA deals with it. You only have to deal from your meter to your house, right?
That's the long stretch.
Correct, but so I was gonna ask you this, where's your public easement for utilities?
Way back when we built an apartment, right? We applied for water, and at that time in the 70s, late 70s, when we built that apartment, we applied, 80s, we applied for water, and when water was changed, I asked him, where are you gonna put the meters? He said, out there next to the road, that's 300 feet. So I had to pay a contractor 3/4 inch pipe, 4 of them.
Right.
And at that time, in the 80s, they were doing the road, they were paving, because it was just gravel. When I did, when they did, put my water lines, it's right in the middle of the road.
But is the,
The tellers running with the government, so they were paving that area, but not like the Southside Lane, where that's my road. I asked the government if they can, pave all the way down, they said, yeah. So, right now, all my water lines, 400 feet, 4/4 inch pipe, 3/4 inch pipe, I pay for them.
but that's on your property,
It's on the road, it's on the easement, the government easement. Right, there's the road, right, government road easement,
okay,
you got about 10 feet
right,
from the road into my property,
right.
okay? So all the way down is easement, is all government easement.
Okay.
And way back when I applied for power, how did you pay the power line?
No, we understand that because depending on how your property is configured, right? Ideally, you then give the government an easement where on your property you will allow them to put utilities. And whether that easement is 100 feet from your house, 50 feet from your house, or 400 feet from your house, kind of depends on your property configuration, right? But let me, I do want to ask the other question. Since they've relocated your meters, are they still getting damaged?
No, right now, it took them, 4 years to relocate that meter
Right.
for 21 feet. And I reduced it from 300 feet. So.
Right, but sometimes there's, yeah, but there may be limitations on the government side that, we can't just stick government assets wherever we want. We're granted an easement by you property owners. And if that's where your easement is, then that's where the government puts its utilities. And if it's close to your house, it's close to your house. If it's far from your house, it's far from your house. But it's your easement that you granted the government in the 80s. That's where you told them to, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's the easement you granted to the government to locate the utilities. It just happens to be a long way from your house. Not sure why that is, but that's where the easement is that you granted the public utilities. So they can only put it where on your property you allow them to, where you grant them the easement.
Well, I think we have no choice. I mean, being that the meters, we were told, have to be in a certain location. So, of course, the pipes have to run through the easement, which is right underneath the road. This is paved road now, running all the way out to the meters.
I don't think the utility easement is under the road. I think it's adjacent to the road.
Well, my water lines is right under the road.
Is that what your research found?
Okay.
So the access that's shown, I believe the easement that they're talking about runs in front of these 4 lots here. And if I'm not mistaken, that portion is now paved. And that's where the lines way back in the 70s or whenever were originally installed, I suppose.
Oh, so it wasn't paved originally when the meters were put there? It was the meters were paved over later?
The water lines, you mean?
I'm sorry, the water lines were paved over later?
That's what I understood from Mr. Flores.
And they were paved over at the request of you to the government to put a road to
So-
your house?
Is the road your property?
Road now. It's not a private road.
It's not a private road, this is government road.
But who made the decision to put the road over the water lines?
I'm not sure.
Well, the contractor did that because water work, at that time, DOAG, it was under DOAG.
Right.
And they just installed the meters out 300 feet away from our apartment. So the contractor, I guess, had to dig between the road, the easement, the government. You know what I mean? I don't know. If it can I put it in private property? I can't do that.
Okay, but so let me ask you this though. I mean, if ultimately Miguel, correct me if I'm wrong, if it breaks underneath that road, who fixes it? GWA now?
If it's after the meter, between the meter and the premise, it is the customer's responsibility to repair.
And then, so this road that is over those water lines, I mean, that's sort of a separate issue from where the meters are, right? I mean, water lines.
The way the service rules and regulations are written, the government's responsibility ends at the connection to the meter.
Okay.
So
but the
regardless
water-
of
okay, go
where
ahead.
it is with respect to the easement or not. So, and I recognize that this is 70s era construction versus the way we would do things now in accordance with our standards. So there were no standards back then, to my understanding. So currently, if there is a meter that's within private property and off the easement, even if the service lateral goes on private property up to the meter, if it's in private property, we still have to fix it.
Okay.
And this is vice versa of that case where the private water line is in a utility and access easement, but the meters were placed at the time of construction on the main road, which is McSisai Street. This is a side road off of that, which at the time, I don't know the exact timing of when it became an easement and access easement, but at the time the meters were installed and continuing up to the today to the point of connection was out near McSisai or on McSisai Street. So the service rules and regulations define the point of connection and GWA's responsibility based on the location of the meter. They don't reference the right of way as a service point.
So I guess so any damage before the meter, GWA is responsible
Yes.
for anyway. So I know you're worried about the road but if it's up to the meter, GWA fixes that. I guess your concern is your meter is so far away from your house, you ran it 300-400 feet. If there's a break between that meter and your house, you'd have to address that, but every ratepayer has to do that. If there's a break on their side of the meter, right? So you just wanted the meters moved closer to your house, even though that would move them, the lines that you ran from your house, you'd want them taken out? I mean, you're the one that put them in. So I'm trying to figure out what's a good resolution for you. If we move the meters to your house, we're gonna have to run lines that already exist, right? I mean, you already have meters from your house you already have water lines from your house to the water meter, correct? The argument or the question is the location of the meter. One concern was the damage. GWA believes they've addressed that damage. They've moved it so that it would be away from the road. Does that address your concern with the
Okay,
damage
so-
to the meters?
Again, any leaks between the meter and the house
Is
is
you.
GWA's?
No, it's you.
That's
But
what I'm saying.
Are there existing leaks now that you're aware of?
Not that I know of, but the thing about it is, that's what we want to shorten. We want to shorten that water line in the event that there is a leak. Now that the road has been paved, you're saying, at first I heard it was GWA's responsibility, and then it got turned, and you're saying now it's the owner's responsibility.
From the meter to your structure, not to them. So GWA comes to your meter,
Right.
when it comes, on that side, that's all GWA. This 400 feet to your structure, because we don't know, we don't decide where you put your structure on your land. You can put it close, you can put it far, but wherever you put it, you're responsible to connect to GWA's system, which is at the meter. And in the 70s, you chose to put your structure, when you built it, was 400 feet from where GWA was putting the meter. But that was your choice.
No, it wasn't our choice. The choice was the meter is going to be located by the road, the main road. And so we had to run the pipes from the building that we were constructing all the way up there.
That's
So
what,
it's not
that's what
our
everybody has
choice.
to do. All of us have that same responsibility. Wherever we build our building, and wherever the main road is, wherever the power lines are, and wherever the water meter is, we can build our building closer to it or further from it. But that's your decision. But the further you are from your meter, the longer your water line has to be. You follow?
Yes, the thing is, again, with that length of water line underneath
Do we have a resolution, Miguel, that
So-
we can see that would help the family?
If the area was, if we were doing a water line replacement project or improvement project, then at that time we would address issues of,
Meter location.
you know, if there are multiple service laterals and the lines are undersized, I'm fairly certain that in this instance, the lines that are serving any residences on that are only on 2-inch laterals. So what we have done and what we have been doing where we have water line replacement programs is upgrading those lines to either 4 or 6-inch mains, installing the hydrant in accordance with the standards, and then reconnecting the service laterals to individual houses served. We don't have an ongoing program in that specific area. So the solution that we've presented is in order to provide the immediate solution that was requested by Mr. Flores. If this is, as Mrs. Flores mentioned, just for the eventuality of a leak occurring, then one possible option would be that as we do our line replacement programs, you know, we could take care of it at that time when the whole neighborhood is benefiting from the line upgrades to include upsizing smaller service laterals that now don't meet GWA standards. But, you know, I don't have a schedule for that for their particular area at this time, which is why it has not been offered as an option. It may come to pass, and we've been basing our line replacements on priorities on where we have old 2-inch galvanized lines and so on and so forth. So that program is established and there is a priority list. I don't know whether or not the area coincides with any current priorities on that program. But that would be one option. When we do get around to doing the line replacement in that area, we can take care of it at that time at no cost to the customer because it's part of our program. But at this point, the request that was made to relocate the meters and extend the main 400 feet under the existing service rules and regulations are clearly stated as that's something that the customer has to pay for and not something that GWA pays for. And that's the offer that was presented.
So is that an option that's acceptable to you, that in the potential near future, maybe the next 2 to 3 years, there could be a lateral line replacement where you would not have to pay for that? Is that 2 to 3 years, is that something that you're willing to wait for to help, you know, avoid?
2 to 3 years?
Well, they're not sure,
There's not-
but there are programs in place to replace lines. We can take a look at it to see how close you are on that schedule, but there are other priorities right now, so. But I mean, that's,
For clarity there, I have a couple of questions real quick. You talk about 4 meters. You're not talking about 4 different houses, right? You're talking about
We're talking about a four.
all 4. So what you have in there is an apartment building, a 4-plex apartment building. Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure I understood it correctly. Okay.
And you don't have any active leaks? Have you had a history of leakage along that distance?
Well, I think there could be a possibility because one of the tenants had to move out. He indicated that he had a $1,000 water bill. So that could be as a result, because we did run a test within the house and there wasn't any leak. So there's a possibility that there is currently a leak somewhere. And it's certainly not in the vicinity of the complex.
Well, but if it's not in the vicinity of the complex, I mean, you'd see a water leak in the vicinity of your complex. You'd have grass.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Right,
That's
so-
one of the factors, right?
Well, I'm trying to figure out that, I can't connect how the $1,000 customer, you know, the tenant who got a $1,000 bill, I'm still not sure that's because of a leak on the distribution side. First off, you know what I mean? And it would have to be a leak after the meter.
Yeah, which
Or-
is our
or-
responsibility now that you're saying.
Well, it's everyone's responsibility. If it leaks at my house after the meter, I call a plumber. I can't call GWA. So, but I mean, I've been here a long time. And when I hear someone says, "Well, they had a $1,000 water bill, therefore that's proof of a leak," well, I would say that we'd have to do some more investigation to confirm that. Did you have other tenants over the years complain of $1,000 water bills?
Yeah, well, they moved out, and, like I said, we had reassessed the apartment with no leaks internally. So it has to be external, and it's certainly not in the area.
Well, or it could be the customer. It could be your tenant. You know, if you let that toilet run, if you don't fix leaks inside the building, that meter keeps
But
turning.
there's non-existing, is what I'm saying.
So,
There's non-existing, and, you know, they did a thorough investigation outside. There wasn't any, so we are thinking that it could possibly be on that long stretch.
did GWA look at that bill for your tenant to find out why it's $1,000?
I didn't, I mean, they moved out.
Well, with the current vacancy, are you seeing water consumption in the vacant apartment? No? So there's no leak
Well,
then?
the water's turned off.
There's no water there, they moved out,
There's
they
no water.
disconnected all the.
It's turned off by the meter?
At the meter.
I would recommend that you turn it back on now that it's vacant and see if there's a leak.
I haven't identified anything because they really, damaged the whole.
No, what I'm saying is that if you turn the water meter on with it vacant, there's no consumption, and you see the water meter turning, there is a leak somewhere.
I mean, to me, it's a valid concern, but if we've relocated the meters away from the traffic, that was one of your concerns, that's been done. And I appreciate you're saying, well, you know, I have a long distance and it could leak in the future. That's true. It could leak 1 feet from the meter, it could leak 300 feet from the meter. So sometimes the length of distance between the meter and your house is sort of irrelevant, especially if you're not driving over it, right? Because you can have a meter leak anywhere between your structure and the meter. And the first indications would be either the bill or tall grass growing in the middle of your yard all of a sudden because the line is leaking,
Yeah,
right?
well, you know, in all fairness, all I was saying is that if the neighbor had the 3 meters moved, relocated in front of their house, you know, why couldn't we get the same service, you know, without any charge?
So I have a question for Miguel then. If that's true, wouldn't the main run all the way to those neighbors' homes? Wouldn't the water main run?
So I'm not familiar with the location of where this is alleged to have happened, and I've asked Mr. Flores to provide me with some sort of documentation. We've said I've been here since 2016, and Mr. Flores, the first time he came to see me, I think was around that time. And at that time, you told me that you're someone who has had his meters relocated and the authority paid for it. So I can tell you that since I've been here, that has not been the case. And if it has happened under my watch, then I've asked for information to that. And I think Mr. Budasi has also requested that if there is that information, we would like the RIA to investigate it, because that's not in accordance with our service rules and regulations, and that's the information that I would need in order to figure that out. And I have not received anything to date, so I will restate, if you do have that information and this has happened under my watch, I would be happy to take a look at that and turn it over to our IA and let her do an investigation, because that's the position that I've taken with you is a consistent position that I've taken since I've been here.
Okay, I think then if you have some documents that you'd like to, then not tonight, not at this meeting. Yeah, you can come up and drop it off with Mr. Gallo. He has, you can get a hold of Ann. Ann, can you give him your phone? Yeah, she'll walk out with you and you can give it to her. She'll make sure he gets it. We'll look at it. What we're doing is we're trying, the water system on Guam was never well designed or well constructed, okay? And the list of the people that got us this system is a very long and distinguished list. Lots of governors, lots of senators. They didn't do their job. We're in the process of trying to fix this system. And so everybody's wondering what we're doing. We're spending a huge amount of money. We're going to have to replace lines all over the island because people put in the wrong lines, they put in the wrong fire hydrants, they did a lot of crazy things. And so we are going to get through the whole island. The problem is I can't tell you, or we can't tell you just how soon, but we are going to fix everything. And I'll tell you that my pet peeve is Agana Heights. Agana Heights is one of the worst villages. You have water lines that run through people's backyards on private property. You have sewer lines that are on private property, believe it or not. And we have to address that at some point. It's just that we can't do it all at one time. So we're biting a little bit at a time, okay? And where we see a big line leaking, that's where we go right away. So we'll take a look. I'll work with Mr. Bordallo and try and take a look at this a little bit more. If you can give us information of when that happened, because if it happened before our time, then, you know, that's a different story. There's a lot of things that went on. So please give us that information. And Ann, could you walk out with them and they'll make sure that they give you.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yes.
And then
Thank
we'll
you.
get back to you. I mean, we have the letter, we're gonna follow up with Miguel. What, did anything get resolved? Right?
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're up. Commissioners, in the work session, we were able to cover most of the general manager's report. Miguel, we covered most of the general manager's report. I believe the financials were discussed. So could we just go to the resolutions?
Yes, sir. The only resolution I have before you tonight is 24 FY 2021, and this is seeking an approval of an amendment to an existing IDIQ contract for professional utility management and financial consulting services. As you know, we submitted our 5-year rate plan, and at the time that the PUC issued its decision on that rate plan in February of 2020, they required 7 analytical studies in order for us to provide sufficient information to inform the comprehensive review and update, which was due on May 1st of this year. After we received that rate order, we issued this contract for the consulting services necessary to support the development of those 7 analytical studies, and also to help us update the rate application model that was included in the package that was submitted to the PUC in May. In addition, the PUC did issue a order for a regulatory asset, which was intended to cover the expenses associated with preparing those analytical studies and the rate application model for the comprehensive review and update. So we did issue that contract, and to date, we have issued various task orders for the analytical studies program management, the rate application model, demand forecasting, the capital financing alternatives report, the affordability and rate design for the comprehensive review and update, and then preparation of that package and submission to the PUC, along with all the workshops with their consultants. So in total, the amount of work included up to this point has been about $980,000, most of which will be covered by that regulatory asset. However, since we are approaching the $1 million mark, which would exceed my procurement authority, we are requesting this amendment to support the work that still remains to be done in getting the comprehensive review and update completed, and a PUC decision on our rate application. And also, if they approve the various elements that were included in the analytical studies, like the alternative capital financing, the tax-exempt commercial paper program, and the customer assistance program, we need continued assistance to get those implemented. And so our estimate of what it would take would not exceed an additional $500,000, and so we're asking for that additional amount to cover all of those efforts on a time and materials not to exceed basis. We anticipate that a decision on the rate case will be provided on the September 30th meeting by the PUC this year. And then we would still need about, we believe, another 6 months or so to take care of the tax-exempt commercial paper program in order to support our CIP. As I mentioned, some of this work would be partially funded by the working capital fund established by that regulatory asset. And then there have been some bond support work which has also funded this contract.
Okay. Do you have any further questions or?
Just a quick question, Miguel, when we convert this expense to a regulatory asset, we're amortizing it over time, so the impact on rates is mitigated, reduced?
That's correct, and we anticipate that the amount of time will be established when the comprehensive review and update rate order is issued.
That'll be part of the discussions with the PUC. Right?
Yes, I believe so.
And you're in the process now, if I'm reading the timeline, you're in the process now of working with our consultant and the PUC's consultants on the various regulatory issues that's before us that you've summarized.
Right, the rate application and the comprehensive review and update package was submitted on May 1st. All of the analytical studies, with the exception of 2 that needed to be finalized, were submitted on March 31st. And then the remaining 2 were submitted with the May 1st application. So all of that work has been done already, but what remains before us now are settlement discussions, and then the evidentiary hearings in front of the ALJ, and then final presentation to the PUC at the September 30th meeting. And also I believe the public meetings are supposed to be also in the beginning of September.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Move to approve, second. Second, Commissioner Martinez. Any further discussion?
Just a quick
Sure.
question. So Miguel, the
Talk.
issues for decision on the objective, it says in view of the Guam Public Utilities Commission consultant's response to the submission of the studies. So the original funding captured the tasks listed on the second page, which is the program management, the Series 2020B support, etc. So the additional funding is to address tasks that came about from the PUC's review of those deliverables? And then they had questions, and they
Yeah.
want you to respond to those questions?
That's correct. There has been several workshops that weren't required under the rate order, but have been requested. And so the consultants that need to be brought on board for that, there have been the authors of some of the analytical studies. So their time, that was extra effort, which has now resulted in where we are in terms of the total funding, that we anticipate more of that type of effort is going to be needed between now and the time the rate order is taken up by the PUC in the September meeting. And then subsequent to that, if any of the programs are approved, like the tax-exempt commercial paper, additional effort would be needed to set up those programs.
No more questions.
Okay, any further questions? No questions? No further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries with 4 aye votes. Thank you very much, Miguel.
One other thing, Mr.
Sure.
Chair, sorry, on the agenda for the work session was the issue for discussion, not for decision, but there is if you recall, you continued the work session. I did want to remind the commissioners.
Yes.
9 a.m. Thursday morning, we will be providing a presentation on the One Guam Water Resource Information Program.
And this is going to be done by basically Dr. Jensen and his
Dr.
colleagues?
Jensen and I will be
Okay.
presenting. He might have some of his staff there. I might have some of my staff
Okay,
there just to answer any
but
questions.
this is after we put in the monitoring wells, commissioners, just to remind ourselves, after we put in those monitoring wells, we're going to be generating data. So what do we do with the data? How do we collate it? How do we use it to manage the aquifer? How long is the presentation, Miguel? Just tell
We
us.
did our dry run today, sir, and it was about 90 minutes. I'm trying to speed it up. But
Okay.
How
Not a problem.
dry was it?
Very dry. It's very dry.
Our aquifer's worth it.
Okay, so just to remind commissioners, the work session was recessed. We'll reconvene this Thursday at 9 a.m., please. Okay?
thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Moving right along. Mr. Beneventi, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, if I may, could first go to the resolutions, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Starting with 2021-16, and this for approval of a new checking account with Bank of One for GPA Energy Sense. As was discussed in the work session, it was recommended that we open a new account because of some fraudulent activities that had occurred on that account. So again, that's basically, again, asking your permission, your approval to continue with that. And John is here if you have any other questions you have on that one.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman, but I have a question.
Okay, move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Chaco. Discussion.
John, was GPA out any money?
John K., are you?
Where's John K?
Oh, I'll have to defer to him, Mr.
You're
Commissioner.
not sure whether we were hit or whether the bank reimbursed us, right?
That's correct, or they may have found it ahead of time, and that's why they brought up the concern. I think that's my understanding, that's why they brought up the concern, and in fact, they are looking through other
But
accounts
they
to
were
see.
able to stop the check before they didn't pay the check.
But yeah, correct, but
That
I
wouldn't be our
can confirm it
responsibility.
to John K.
What was the nature of the fraudulent checks, JB? Were they actual GPA checks that were forged, or were they manufactured checks? So, and then my second follow-up question is, what were the financial controls if they were actually GPA checks?
I think I will defer for John, if you may. Maybe what I'll do is I'll proceed to the next resolution and come back to that. if I may.
That's fine.
But
No. He's coming right in.
I want to make sure that we get this correct, no? And I don't want to.
Have a seat. John, the question, do you want to restate the
John,
question?
Couple of quick questions. Was GPA out any money on these check
Fraud.
forgeries? And did okay, the bank caught it before they cashed it, before they paid it.
No, because this is actually a more of an issue with Bank of Guam when they make a copy of the check and they print and they do a deposit. So really, it's not our check. So so any of those gets cleared, they reverse it and reverse us the money.
So GPA was not out any money. Bank of Guam caught this.
Yes.
That there was an attempt to forge our checks through the remote banking
Yes.
process.
Yes.
Someone's making a fake check, taking a picture of it and trying to deposit it,
Yes.
and they caught that.
Yes, they caught us, and we also catch us because we also do reconcile it with the bank account. So we tell
But
them.
you would catch it if they paid it.
Yes.
Did they pay it? Did Bank of Guam pay it?
Some of them they did. We say, hey, this is not a check, and they'll reverse it.
How much are we talking? That's the number I was trying to get. How much did Bank of Guam pay before we caught it? And how much did they reimburse?
Do you know how much they were out? Do you
They
think?
were about $50,000.
Okay, that they paid with a
Yes.
fraudulent check, took out of our account, they reimbursed us, put it back in our account.
Yes.
It's on their side it's the headache's on their side.
Yes.
And it's about 50,000-ish?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And John, well, what did they do? Did they duplicate our check and then alter it?
Oh, no, they created a totally different check
They created a totally different check?
using our account number.
Oh, so they took our account number off of one of our checks
Yes.
and then created a check on their own?
Yes.
Don't our checks have some sort of, something where if you Xerox it, you'll see that it's not ours?
Yeah, that's why they create their own check, not using our check.
Yeah.
So they use they use just account numbers. In the old days, most accounts checks usually have like micro codings on it, or for secure checks. The other thing is the account numbers. Those inks actually are magnetic inks. So those are all traditional ways of preventing fraud. But nowadays they're doing optical.
Yeah, where they just take a picture.
Yes, and with that, you have a fraud risk.
Okay, so therefore, this resolution would create another separate account just for the DSM
Yes.
payments? Okay, go ahead.
No, good.
No, I was just gonna, one final follow-up question. In our other accounts, where these checks were coming from was our general account, right?
Yes,
our
general account, yes.
GPA account.
Yes.
Have we had any fraud on those checks? Nobody's taking pictures of those, in other words, 'cause-
There were times long ago when we had a disbursement check they tried to clear it, we caught it, and we reversed it and created a new account for that.
Okay.
But-
So this really is, now I'm getting an education. This is a thing where the banks have to be careful, because when they're so fast to say, hey, you don't even have to come in, just take a picture, that now is negating some of the security features on that check. Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Machado, you had a question? Sorry.
No, I was just asking, the way this reads, it's a specific bank account for the Energy Sense Fund, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is, yes.
It's not GPA's main checking account?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, this is purely for GSM checks.
And so the Bank of Guam is basically gonna cancel this account number going forward. This new account number is what the new checks will be posted on?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And this remains a headache for the banks these days that now accept mobile depositing and check cashing.
Yes.
I mean, so to me, just because we have a new account doesn't prevent it from happening. If
Yeah.
someone wants to do it
But-
and play that, but that's why the burden is on the bank, and Bank of Guam reversed, put the money back in GPA's account, because they're the ones that have to stop this. There's nothing we can open this account, but that doesn't stop somebody from forging it. the
Yeah, I
next day.
think,
Yes.
yeah.
Because once they have an account number, right?
Yes. So one of the things we're gonna do is called Positive Pay. So every time we issue a check, we give them a list of check account and the amount written. So they'll
That's
verify
that's
if
another-
there's any variances, they'll flag it, we'll take the image, the check, and we'll get it and verify if it's our check or some fake checks they pass through the bank.
I mean, that's okay for an account in which you don't issue a lot of checks. If there's an account in which you issue a lot of checks, that could be burdensome,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
not every day, you're writing checks every day. Are you sending a list to Bank of Guam every day of checks you just issued?
Yes, we are.
Now you are, right?
Yes.
Because of this, right?
Yes.
On all accounts, right?
Yeah, for disbursement and this account, yes.
Yeah, okay, so the new
Okay,
paradigm.
yeah, it's a new paradigm, but you know, the other thing is, I think the other thing is establishing, from the bank's perspective, I'm thinking, they want you to establish a separate account for these, because in your general account, you're writing to companies, you're writing to, you know, even our employees are all probably deposited, what do you call it, ETF deposit.
But a crook
And-
can print, Martinez Incorporated, Sanchez Incorporated, make it look official.
Yeah.
GPA writes a check to them.
Yeah, but what I'm saying
And
is,
as long as they have our account number, a good printer can make any check look legit.
Yeah.
That's gonna be phoned in.
yeah, but I'm just saying, so this one, we are writing a lot of checks now to our customers, and therefore that, you know, the banks look at it and say, hey, this is another rebate check, and they let it go. Anyway, I think it's Commissioner Martinez.
I just, so the account is still active now?
Yes, we still have checks outstanding, so that's what we're doing, Positive Pay, reviewing all the checks that's coming, being cleared.
Okay. Okay. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries with 4 aye votes. John, next one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next, I would like to move to Resolution 2021-20, and that's the proposed amendment of the consent decree between GPA and the US EPA. And that's because the remaining resolution actually are tied into the consent decree. So understanding the changes would provide the justifications needed for the next resolutions. So again, the consent decree, the modifications, can we move to the modifications? The modifications that have been made, and again, these are the significant portions of the consent decree. And a lot of this, of course, had to be renegotiated because of COVID-19 or all the other activities for one reason or other. So we had an opportunity to reset the dates and the timelines, and of course with that, there are some timelines that had to be additionally met, and I've made changes to accommodate that, so that we can get to a settlement between US EPA and ourselves. The US EPA has asked for our CCU approval. Once I do get that, then they will bring this forward to the federal court, which has the final authority onto the amendment. But typically, from my understanding, once the parties have agreed, typically the court honors that, although they have the option to say no, right? So again, the key dates that have been changed is the construction of the pipelines, and this is for those that we're going to need to bring in ultra-low sulfur diesel, which is going to be their final fuel source. So that's been moved from May 1st to December 31st of this year, which we are scheduled to complete. The next one is really the conversion of PD 8 and 9 to burn ultra-low sulfur diesel. That date was supposed to be December 31st of this year, 2021. That has been reset now to July 31st of 2022. And again, we have issued the contract for the conversion, and we are working on the pipelines and the tanks to be able to meet the July 31st date. And again, this is PD going from burning residual fuel oil to now clean ultra-low sulfur diesel. The next one is the construction of the new power plant. The original date in the consent decree is October 2022, and now it's been reset about 18 months to April 30, 2024. Our amendment to the amendment to the ECA between ourselves and KEPCO is that all best efforts for 2 November 2023, but certainly no later than April 2024, because in particular it's tied into this US EPA consent decree, so that we don't, so that the penalties are not incurred. In addition to that, as part of because of the delays and everything, there's a regulation, the SIP implementation plan that has to be met no later than April 2023. So that was the kicker. That was a red line that US EPA had, and of course, what part of it was because they were under suit by environmental groups about the state implementation plan of Guam. And so therefore, we've made model studies and everything and determined that 0.2% sulfur residual fuel oil will meet that. And therefore, we have agreed that we will no later than December of 2022 burn 0.2% sulfur. We're burning 2% sulfur now. We're going to go to 0.2% sulfur, which requires blending and everything to be able to bring in that fuel. So again, that's reset to December 2022. And then 6 months after the new power plant, approximately 6 months, the retirement of Cabarrus 1 and 2. And why about 6 months? Because then we're going to have to burn all the remaining residual fuel oil in the system before we completely retire the plant. So that gives us that period of time to do that. So that's October 31st, 2024. In addition to that, the solar contracts, 100 megawatt, has been reset from December 2021 to now December 2023. We do have the KEPCO project coming on the line, from what I understand, the end of the year, but certainly before May of next year. The 60 megawatts here at Sasajang going down to Pocket will be on the line and serving. So that's part of the 100 megawatts, and the second one is really consists of either 2 projects. One, the contracted Hanwha project that is down in London. That's another 60 megawatt. Or hopefully, if we can get the protest under the 40-50 megawatt solar PV with batteries on Navy leased land, get that out of the court and construct it as soon as possible. That could be part of that 100 megawatts. Then But again, that's reset to December 2023. The next one is the battery system, the energy storage system, and that's been reset to March 1st of 2021, which is the time that we did get the energy storage system at Agana and Talavolpo operating online and commissioned. So we have complied with this one. It's just a set of just a resetting of the thing. As far as the stipulated penalties, Mr. Chair, I won't go through all of it, but really, the one that did increase, from my understanding, is the making sure that we get the ultra-low sulfur diesel at PD 8 and 9 completed by July 31st, which we are on schedule, I think, somewhere around April or May of next year. That will be completed and running on ultra-low sulfur diesel, and the date is July 31st. So I won't go through all of this, but again, there are the penalties that stipulated penalties that typically are associated with all the consent decrees. So again, the consent decree could be modified. The parties have worked out between ourselves and agreed on what those modifications could be, and so now we're seeking your approval for the approval, so then they can proceed further to the federal court. I think that's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
The rest of this stuff, if you would like to go through it, I tried to lay out some of the challenges that are, associated with the meeting. GPA currently burns 3 types of fuel: high sulfur 2% RFO, low sulfur 1.19% RFO, and ultra low sulfur diesel in our power plant. We're gonna have to go to 5 types of fuel. Then from there, head back down to one single source. So we need storage tanks and all of that to be able to,
Those are the other resolutions.
Right.
Okay.
So again, this is the process. We're gonna go from this 3 fuel currently. We're gonna go to 5, and then start weeding off from all those, and then end up with ultra low sulfur diesel. And we call it special because the new power plant has some additional requirements on the fuel specs, but then that will be the final fuel that we will burn in all the power plants, because through economies of scale, we're going to get, that will be stored now at our new tanks.
But the goal is to continue to move towards burning cleaner fuels to lower, to lessen the emissions that we create when we provide energy to the public.
That's correct.
That's the goal of the consent decree. That's also before us, and all of this is linked to, and because you presented this very well at the work session.
Okay.
So, in our pursuit of lower cost energy, and reducing the emissions that we create when we produce energy for the public, the fuel mix is a big piece of that puzzle. The new generator will burn the cleanest fuels and burn much less of it, and we are migrating in that direction. US EPA has signed off on this strategy that you're explaining to us, correct, John? And that's the intent of Resolution 2021-20.
Correct.
Is for us to authorize you to proceed with amending the consent decree between GPA and US EPA on this whole process that you described at the work session and you're reiterating today.
Okay, John? Okay. John? So I think we've heard a lot already on 2120.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask for a motion. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve Resolution 2120, the proposed amendment of the consent decree between GPA and US EPA.
Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Martinez. And do we have any further discussion? Any other questions? No? We don't have any other questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries with 4 aye votes. Okay, John, next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next resolution is 2021-17, approval for a change order on TANG 1935 auto service inspection and recertification. And TANG 1935 has been out of service for about over a year actually, and delayed due to the COVID-19. However, the last time these tanks were emptied and cleaned and rehabilitated was about 14 years ago. So the initial estimates on the amount of sludge in the bottom of the tank was less, much less than what they found out. So therefore, this is the estimate. Instead of 701 barrels, they estimate about an additional 1,500 barrels of sludge that has to be removed and disposed of. And so therefore, we need a change order of about 1.2 million to be able to clean and finish that tank. And the plan is to finish that by around the end of the year or early next year. And then that tank, 1935, will then be fueled up with 0.2%, the sulfur content fuel that is going to be burned in December 2022.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's the resolution, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
For 20.
Is there a motion to approve this resolution? So moved by Commissioner Martinez. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Commissioner Limchalco. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Sure, Commissioner Limchalco.
JP, is this correct that 70% of the entire capacity of the tank is sludge?
Not 70%.
Assume 70.5%?
Oh, maybe what they're, is it here? Oh, I think what they're saying is of the bottom, all of that, 70% is hard sludge. The rest are still liquid. So that's what they, not the whole tank. The whole tank is 268,000 barrel capacity, but then they got it down to the last, I think it was a little over a foot of sludge, and all of that, the estimate is 70% of that is sludge.
The remaining portion,
Yeah, the remaining portion of the fuel.
Okay,
that's in the tank.
good.
Yeah, you threw me off there. I
Okay.
said, what? No, it couldn't be. Where's that number?
It's scary if it's
Yeah.
70% of the entire
Okay.
tank.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
made their best estimate at this point as to
Okay.
what. And then-
Okay,
And then what do they do with the sludge? They put it in, they scoop it up, put it in barrels and dispose of it as
Yeah,
hazmat?
part of it is disposed of island, part of it that could be burned. We burn at Cabras. But also at this point in time, Cabras is getting burdened. Cabras has been going up and down. So therefore,
probably go off island.
So we've been trying to ship some of these things off island as best we can. No?
okay.
But at the same time, we're going to go through that process of, over the next several years, of keep on burning this. Cabras is the only one that can burn all of this.
Yeah.
All the other are internal combustion engines that can take this type of fuel.
Okay. John, just a real quick note. So don't forget that whenever you're talking to the business community,
Yes.
maybe tomorrow, to remind them that in a short period of time, is it called waste oil or?
Used oil.
Used oil. Used oil will no longer be going to Cabras, and they are going to have to figure out a solution. So we need to keep reminding them. I don't want somebody to come along in 1 year and say, wait, we didn't know.
Yep.
You need to remind them, okay?
That's
Okay.
correct, sir. I
Okay,
will.
any further questions? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries with 3 aye votes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution 2021-18, ultra low sulfur diesel storage agreement amendment 2 for one more additional tank 1907, for lease of up to about 3-year period to allow us for the transitioning and during the cleaning and of all this storage tank. Right now we have one tank up there, and that one tank is 196,000 barrels. That one tank can supply the consumption of PD8 and 9 once it's converted to ultra low sulfur diesel.
Okay.
But that's like only a 2-month supply, so therefore you have to bring in fuel every month, and that's not I believe prudent for ourselves. In addition to that, by 2023, January 2023, we have to have a tank for this ultra low sulfur diesel special for the new power plant, so that they can use it for testing as they start the commissioning. So therefore, there are 2 tanks up at TriStar. One we are currently leasing, which we're going to use for PD, And then this will be the second tank that would allow us now to have like a 3-month supply for PD 8 and 9, because that's the most efficient unit in the system. And we consume about 80,000, we'll be consuming about 80,000 barrels per month from that. So the 2 tanks will provide the backup reserve of fuel, and secondly provide the fuel source for the new power plant once they get going in the construction. So again, our request is to allow us to go ahead and lease this second tank up at TriStar.
Okay, on resolution 2021-18, is there a motion to approve? Motion is approved by Commissioner Martinez. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Chalco. Any further discussion or questions?
I do want to note, Mr. Chair, that when we get to 1 tank, all of these tanks that we're leasing actually contracts will be terminating.
Sure.
And
No,
we
we
will
get
be
that.
using the 2 large tanks that we own. So all these years of
Down at Cabras.
renting tanks will
Will go away.
once we get to 1 fuel source.
Yeah.
And that's
So,
why the complexity now is going from 3 to 5, then down to 1.
Right, right. And the nice thing is, John, you'll have the 2 tanks down at Cabras, and then you'll have the other tank up at Ukudu,
That's right.
where you can feed the combustion turbines off of that by trucking, and it's a lot cheaper and safer and faster. Okay,
That's a good point, Mr. Chair. The Ukudu plant in itself will have a 1-month supply of fuel.
right,
And the reason for that is to be sustainable in case of
any disruption?
any disruption of service to provide fuel, including tsunamis or anything like that. The new plant is constructed to be able to be self-sustaining
Okay,
and provide the island continuous power despite a tsunami, if you will.
Okay.
Hope never happens, but again, planning for the future,
we
right?
have to be
Yes.
resilient,
Yeah.
yes.
So now you have the 3 tanks in itself will be your storage,
Okay, any
and equivalent
questions?
to about 4 or 5 months
Okay.
supply.
Any further questions or discussion? None? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries with 3 aye votes and 2 absent. And
Thank
no
you, Mr.
nays.
Chair. Resolution 21-19, that's the RFO residual fuel supply contract. Currently, we do have a contract with Hyundai. It's like a 3-year plus 2 1-year extensions. And again, Hyundai contract will bring us to the end of our residual fuel oil burning days, no?
Uh-huh.
In that contract, they supply 2.0% sulfur, high sulfur fuel, and they provide 1.19% sulfur for when there are days when the wind is blowing inland. We use the low sulfur fuel as required by US EPA. So therefore, to try and get to a 0.2% sulfur, we requested the current supplier to provide us an estimate as to what that will be, the cost. Because again, as we transition out of here, and because we have to burn 0.2% by December of 2021, then there's no, there's no assurance that even if we go out for bid, that somebody will bid for such a short-term contract, so this is an existing contract we're asking to amend. Again, the premium and fees are really associated with the blending of the fuel to bring the sulfur content to 0.2% to be compliant with EPA requirement. And the process is we bring in the 0.2% by say January or February next year. We start burning the 1.19% out. This will be our backup. Then we start burning all the 2% out of the system during the various days so that we get to 0.2% by the end of the year. So that's the process. The pricing, of course, is higher for 0.2% sulfur. However, this is based on current market prices. So I'm hoping that, and it's close to about $100 a barrel for this versus about $90 a barrel for the low sulfur under the 1.19%, and ultra low sulfur diesel of about around $90 also a barrel. No?
Okay.
And so again, this is the additional changes necessary to be compliant with the EPA. I'd like to go back to one slide which had the cost, the projected cost with all the burning and changing of fuel. Remember, we're going to go from cheap, dirty fuel to very clean fuel. So the question becomes, well, how much is this going to cost us, and where are we going to end up? No? So the first thing I'd like to say is that the very clean fuel that we're going to be burning is 0.0015% sulfur. Right now we're burning 2%. So imagine how many, I didn't calculate that, but how many times, that's probably hundreds or maybe 1,000 times cleaner than the current fuel that we've been burning on this island since 1955. No? So now we're going to convert from such dirty fuel to clean, very clean fuel. And what does that mean in terms of cost for us? Of course, this is based on $100 a barrel fuel, where some of ours is now 75 heading over there, right? So even at $100 a barrel fuel, if you look at 2023, the year that we start burning all this expensive fuel, what does the LEAC come in at? It comes in at about 16.7 cents. So yes, there is a transition up in cost, but it's not something that we've never been at, no? The highest we had in LEAC was somewhere around 20 cents a kilowatt hour, right? So we're going to be converting, and of course, why? The other thing is because again, this is 2023, we found the new power plant. This is just the old system power plants, and Gpwa coming in the line with the 8.5 cents per kilowatt hour solar PV. So the combination will keep it at least below around 16.7, which is right around where we're heading today. No? What happens after the new power plant comes on? Because it's going to operate about less than a half a year, the LEAC is going to drop from 16.7 just down to 13, because the new power plant is operating. Then what happens when it runs for a full year? Even at close to $100 a barrel, it's going to go down to about 11.6 cents, close to about where we are today before we increase the rates anymore. So that gives everyone a perspective as to the cost, no? Now, if this is not $100 a barrel and it does come down to 90 or so, here 85 or 90, then it's going to go to 10 cents a kilowatt hour with the efficiency of the new power plant and the new renewables that are coming on the line. The next phase, that again is not for discussion today or deliberation, but in the future, the plant is capable to go to natural gas. If we did go the next step, now you're looking at about 8 cents a kilowatt hours per gallon. So you converted completely from a real dirty fuel, low cheap, to more expensive fuel, clean air, and you have LEAC rates that are substantially cheaper than what it is today. So that's that's the perspective of all the decisions that we're making today, including the burning of the fuel. So that's
so this is resolution 2021-19 that we're on right now.
Correct, Mr. Chair.
And is there a motion to approve? Moved by Commissioner Martinez. Is there a second to that motion?
No, sir. No, sir.
Second by Commissioner Mchalco. Do we have any further discussion or questions?
I do have a question, Mr.
Commissioner
Chair.
Mchalco, yes.
So JB, you walked us through the timeline of being starting to burn the 0.2% ultra low sulfur fuel oil in December 2022. So don't you have to purchase that fuel
That's
prior to
correct.
that?
That's that's this existing, that's this contract.
So, but the fuel analysis that you showed started at 2023 with the LEAC going up to 16.6. What happens from June of what happens when you start purchasing that 0.2% ultra low sulfur fuel oil between then and December? What happens in 2022? Do you show the LEAC going up?
This burning December 2022, so the LEAC is gonna get, the full effect of this will be in 2023. That's why I showed you 2023. In 2022, it'd be less than that, no?
Okay.
But
So
the
although you're
process,
even
the
though
process.
you're purchasing it ahead of schedule, that LEAC's
Yeah,
not
you're
being
you're
passed through, so you
purchasing
start
it, but
burning
you're not gonna be burning it
Okay.
as much. The differential is also you're already paying about close to $90 a barrel for low sulfur 1.19. So you're going to be replacing that over time with 0.2% at 100. So that it's an incremental additional cost, no? The key here is that because you only have so much tankage and because you're going to transition out the oil, you're going to have the 2.2% that's going to come in and is going to be put into the 1935, which is the first tank that's been completely rehabilitated, the one that we approved the slots removal for. We have that 0.2. Next to it is 1934, and that's got low sulfur fuel, 1.19. So what we're going to have to do is burn that out and empty that tank so that we can rehabilitate that second tank. So therefore, as best we can, we're going to burn that, and then this now will be your backup for the 10% of the time that the wind blows inward. So you're not burning this every day. You're still burning the high sulfur fuel. And there's about 3 or 4 months supply of that up in TriStar. So first we burn the 1.19 for about a month or two, and then we burn for the next 4 months the remaining high sulfur before we continuously burn the 0.2%, which will be about December. So that's why in the following year, December of 2023, the whole year, calendar year 2023, you'll be burning 0.2%, and you'll be burning ultra low sulfur diesel at PD8 and 9. So the combination of those higher fuel costs, that's why you see 2023 at a higher cost. And when the power plant starts coming in, then it starts dropping our cost. And that's at $100 a barrel for all the fuels, is what I estimated at.
Okay. Any further questions? None? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries with 3 aye votes and 2 abstentions. Or 2 absences, rather.
Okay, I have one more resolution, Mr. Chair, and this is, and I need to explain this a little bit clearer. There's some conflicting, land use provisions and public laws that have occurred over the years as a result of the power plants, and therefore, as part of the ECA agreement with Gpwa, they are concerned about this public law which says that no power plant shall be built within 1,500 feet of a school. And so therefore they have asked us that we try and remedy that because it could, and they're quite firm on this, and of course I didn't want to leave. I've worked to try and convince them that I don't think that may be the case. However, I will go on a tandem, 2-prong attack to try and get this remedied to make sure that they could do the financial closing by November of this year. The financial closing is when they get all the money necessary to build a power plant, and immediately right after that begin all the construction for the power plant. So again, I need, this is what this scenario is. Cabras 1 and 2, again, I mentioned all the type of fuels that they burn, and they've been burning this for years down there. So the projects for compliance is going to bring them all down to about 0.15% sulfur and 0.2%. So many times over emission for that whole PD area, including towards the school, will be substantially clean and compliant with US EPA. In addition to that, in 2025, number 1 and 2 will be retired. So all you're going to be running down there again is PD8 and 9, PD7, and the new 41 megawatt power plant. But more importantly, you're only gonna run it for limited reserve standby capabilities. You're no longer the base load unit that's going to be running day in and day out. So the emissions for this whole area is going to go substantially down, and going to be substantially, in magnitudes of hundreds, maybe 1,000 clean. Okay? So again, that's the but again, Gpwa's lenders are concerned that they may not be able to finance the powers because of this Public Law 22-23 that was put into effect around in the 90s, no? And I'll show you why. And so therefore, and again, the conflict is between the special use designation and Public 2023. Lot 261, which I'll show you in a minute, is the property where the fuel oil storage tank is. Lot 257 is where all the power plants are. The combination of the two is for power plant storage facilities and everything. So therefore, it was deeded over from the Navy to Gpa for the use as a power system, because we took over the sole source, providing sole source of power. That's the special use designation as in military land, and it's really unzoned. It's really just for special use for power plants. So therefore, when we look at this, we've also talked to land management about this site, and then they basically have said it's really unzoned, so it appears that there shouldn't be an issue going down in the permitting process. But again, Gpwa's concerned. And so therefore, in the interest of trying to get something done and not avoid any delay on this power plant, which is heavily dependent on our consent decree and of all the savings that we're trying to do, I agreed to go ahead and proceed and try and see whether I can get someone to help us with this scenario and get a waiver from that public law, just so that we can clear the record on this. Now, again, next page. What are we looking at? Here is the storage tanks, and this is where the new 41 megawatt power plant is going to be installed. Right here is where about where the stacks are going to be. This line here is 1,500 feet from Rio School. This area is about 1,000 feet from Rio School. So again, the other thing I would like to note is that the wind direction coming from here out, from the west side of the island towards Rios, occurs less than 3%, maybe between 1 and 2% of the year. In the past 5 years, the percentage of time that the wind direction is less than 1 to 2%. No? So it's very, again, a sign from the emission, because the new power plant is not going to be on the line until 2024. Therefore, and the emission very seldom, it really has no impact on the school. And of course, the new power plant will also be permitted by Guam EPA and US EPA. So again, to be compliant, we're going to be burning much less than what fuel is being burned there, much cleaner. And the other thing is, I don't see anything that has provided scientific reasoning as to why it should be 1,000 1,200, 1,500 feet, or anything like that. And of course, everything has to be approved by US EPA, which uses models and everything to get it approved. So let me talk as to why the issue ever came up in the first place. So the next page, it gives you an idea of the Machechi power plant. This is the one on Harmut Loop Road. In Harmut Loop Road, the Machechi power plant, and within a 500 feet radius, we have the JM Guerrero School. So when the plant was first constructed in the 90s, that's when the load shedding blues originated. The plant was put up, and we were burning 0.5% marine diesel at the time. So in addition to that, there were some complaints about diesel fumes in the area. So therefore, that was addressed by increasing the stack height of the Machechi, and from then on, the issue went away. But the public law emerged as a requirement, no from under 15 feet, no less than 1,500 feet from an area. In addition to that, in 2011, we changed from 0.5% ultra low sulfur 0.5% marine diesel to 0.0015% ultra low sulfur diesel. So in addition to the stack height and the change to the new fuel that is the fuel that, for use in the future, and you know, since then, 2011 and into the future, there hasn't been any issue, and Machechi has been running for the past several years, been running almost every day. What does Machechi emission look like? The next page. Oh, we got right picture. It's very clear. We haven't had any issues. So we're proven compliant. But again, understanding the concern, okay, case in point, the Ukudu power plant is outside of the 1,500. We make sure that we didn't buy property that is within that 1,500 feet. But here, we have a conflict of designation. Where else are we going to put a power plant? We need to put it there for reason of the fuel, the transmission, and the best use service in the area as a reserve unit. Least cost to the consumer. So again, I'm going to be requesting if we can get your permission to seek a waiver on this so that at least we can satisfy Gpwa's requirement and avoid any type of potential delay on this, which I've noted to Gpwa that really I don't think this should delay that project, because this is only a component of the May project, you know, which is the 198 megawatt power plant at Ukudu. So that, Mr. Chair, is the thing, and I just need the board's permission to proceed and trying to find a way to get this result.
Is there a motion to approve 2021-21?
Make a motion.
Motion is made by Commissioner Martinez. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion. I do have questions, so.
Yeah, no. So there's a second. Okay. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Mchalko.
Okay, thank you. So JB, you're not sure whether this is warranted or not, right? You're not sure whether you actually need legislation or not? Because you have an existing power plant on the same lot, right?
That's right. And the key here is that they're going for financial closing, no? And this is brought up also by their lenders. And so you know how they is, they have to cross their I's and dot their T's in all of this. So this is an issue that was brought up with them, although we've given them the land management opinion as to whether, you know, this scenario was such. But again, so in the interest of trying to make sure that there's no hiccups on this process, I would like to proceed to get some support to make this happen. Because again, this is not in any way impacting the health and environment for the schools or in any, actually any of
Any of the
the
people
customers within 100 feet or 50 feet from the plant, because it's clean fuel and again will all be compliant. So it's really not, this law is not relevant for the location that we're talking about now. Huh? And so I wanted to assist, like again, I didn't want to, this is not an issue that I want to, I don't want to give any reason for Gpwa to, or any other parties to delay this construction, no? This financial closing, which is critical. They're trying to get that all done by November of this year, and from then they will be meeting our target dates. No?
Is the draft legislation completed? Because it references proposed bill. Where's the proposed bill?
It should be, is it there?
Is it on board books?
Books, I think. It's very simple. It's just a waiver. Very straightforward.
This is
Hopefully.
page 207?
Can you check that, John?
Yeah.
What page?
207.
Yeah. What page is that? 207, yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I'd like to know.
JB, I have a question, John.
Sure.
When I look at this, the first map, the first map you showed us
Hmm?
of the 1,000 and 1,500, it looks to me like 8 and 9 are within the 1,500 feet.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
So,
It was
I mean-
permitted and constructed.
and it was permitted and constructed.
So basically I think the same reasons that, land management may have opined and others like myself continue to point out. But again,
So why isn't that in the legislative findings? You're trying to justify, why this is.
we can
should be
provide that.
considered.
We can expand that. We can expand that legislation.
Well, you should, and then you should also discuss in the legislative findings that, by doing this, right, the net emissions will go down when you close.
When you close out,
When
the
you
other
close
caps
Cabras 1 and 2, right?
and everything else that you're going to close.
So
You
you're
can
going to
expand it,
reduce a million,
yeah.
I guess the emissions associated with the 1,096 barrels of fuel, right, associated with Cabras 1 and 2. So, yeah, I would recommend that you add that into the legislative findings to plead your case, but I mean, we're still not sure whether this is needed. Based on what you presented, right, was it land management said that there's no zone, so.
Because that land was designated for power plants and everything. No?
And they're not, this area outlined in this map here, this square area is it a separate lot number, or is it all
No,
one lot?
That's all one lot, but
all
that's
one lot number.
that's the amount of area necessary for the power plant. No? For the
Yeah, but
41
is it
meg.
one lot, John?
Yeah, lot 261 includes the two tanks there, and about the same amount of area right next to it where the proposed power plant is. So that's like double there. That's like 15 acres there for the.
So in other words, the lot actually goes further forward to
Yeah.
to Marine Drive.
That's right.
And you're putting this way back here,
Right,
furthest back from Marine Drive,
1,000 feet, 1,200 feet away from
from Marine
the
Drive,
actual location. No?
from the school, yeah. I share the concerns of Commissioner Tiaco that,
Okay.
basically, if this was deeded specifically for a power plant, and land management has recognized it as not being zoned, there is no zone, then basically the subsequent law that was passed, Public Law 22-23, which came way after this, would not apply, because otherwise, if that law applied, we would have to shut 8 and 9 down. So, obviously the law doesn't apply, but I think I agree with Commissioner Chalco. You have to put all those things into the legislative findings.
Yep.
So that, you know, the fact that the land was deeded, everything you can put in with regards to land management's position on this, that they have no problem with the permitting process. That's what you have to put in, John.
Okay, we will expand it, especially with a lot of the presentation or comments or notes that I've presented tonight to the logic as to why.
But PD 8 and 9 and PD 7, it's on the same lot? Or is it a different
No,
lot?
it's on a different lot.
It's actually on a different lot. There were two lots, basically the fuel tanks are on lot 261, and then right adjacent to that is lot 257. It was actually deeded at the same time by the Navy in 1975. So they are adjacent to each other. It's just the fuel tank lots that basically for the construction of fuel tanks, and lot 257 says for the construction of a power plant, of a steam power plant.
So this is,
Yeah,
this
okay.
is 257, this is 261, which again includes this boundary here. See this area here? It's about the same size. That's 261, okay?
What
Here's
lot is
PD
that?
8 and 9.
Okay.
And PD 8 and 9 is also part of the property that is earmarked for conveyance to the GPA under
But-
the power pool agreement that we took over the power pool agreement. So the land were PD 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is right here. And this whole area was under the Navy, which they leased it to us under an agreement to facilitate the transfer of the property to GPA after cleaning it up environmentally and all of that. There was a sublease made for PD 8 and 9 out of this property here, which is not 261. The property is also going to be deeded over to GPA at some point in the future. No?
Yeah, but John,
Yeah.
to be clear, 261 is where the two tanks are and where you're proposing to put these diesel units.
That's correct.
What's the lot number where 8 and 9 and 7 are? The leasehold land that we're holding. What's that lot number?
I'm not sure what the lot number is. I don't even think they have a lot number yet. This one, where 8
Yeah.
and 9 is? Right here. Because Temis is here, Temis 7 is here.
Yes, I know, John,
there's
but
8 and 9.
it's the fact that 8 and 9 are also there. You need to do more research, Graham, to make sure that there's a lot number or some designation that clearly shows that that area is for power generation, and because that's your whole point, is that area is right in the same arc where the lot is that you're looking at, the rectangle lot that you're looking at. So, you know, I'm with Commissioner Jocko. I think you need to beef up your legislative findings so that you load it in.
Yep, we'll do, Mr. Chair.
The lot on the top, John, the lot on the top, that's really where cameras 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 are, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay,
I don't have any other questions.
no further questions. Are you ready to vote on this? Yeah. Okay. No further questions, no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Nay is 0, so 3 aye votes, 2 absence. The motion carries. And John, we would appreciate if you ran if you ran the proposed legislative language by us,
Sure,
okay, so that we can have another look at it.
right. We will do that.
In case the commissioners have any further thoughts.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Just one item, Mr. Chair, then of course I can go through the GM report or defer to yourselves, any questions you may have on it. But in the work session, I did bring to yourselves the proposed agreement between ourselves and Guam DOE for us to assist DOE.
Sure.
And then we're going to work out.
You're still working on that
work on
MOU.
an agreement, but again, unless there's any concerns or issues that the CC wants, I need to address, I can put it in MOU, otherwise we can proceed on an MOU to make it happen. As long as there's no, yeah.
Any questions?
We don't need
I
to.
think I had some questions during the
Sure.
working session regarding
Yeah.
this.
Yes.
Are we clear on what the scope of work is? Is it just assistance associated with procurement,
Engineering.
but
Support.
we're not designing or doing any.
No, I think it's basically they have some design engineers, for example, Simon Sanchez, no? They have a 30% design, I think it's complete or nearing completion. So now we will assist in taking that and putting it into a bid package and assisting in the process of the bid, because even throughout the process, right, there's going to be questions and answers, questions that require answers from DOE. So we will be the owner engineers to work with the engineering firms to make that, to ensure that this process.
But just
In addition to that, there are other projects that need to be packaged together to go out for a bid. That doesn't necessarily need an engineering design, no more than a scope of work to get the work done. So that's the type of work that will be involved in this.
But
And,
John,
JB,
Commissioner
it's
John.
just the energy side of it.
no, this is
The
everything.
entire.
Everything,
the
everything
entire-
from canopies to drainages to bathrooms to whatever needs to be done in the school to assist them to spend this $250 some million of capital investment from Department of Interior. I believe it's Department of Interior, and then potentially another 170 million from the
CARES.
American Rescue Plan or Act. So there's close to $400 million of work that needs to be done for Guam DOE, and of course they have not been successful in getting the CIPs done. So they seek out our assistance, of course, because we have the engineering and the management capacity to assist in getting these things done. So.
You have the internal capacity. None of this stuff is being subcontracted to, like we do most of the stuff associated
We're
with
gonna
GP?
subcontract the work out, but the engineering and the process to getting those contracts done, and then of course, making sure that the work gets done, that will now be our role, and they don't have the capacity to do that.
I to further understand, are we going to be functioning as a PMO?
We're gonna be
Professional
like an
management
owner engineer for Guam DOE. That's the only way that this is gonna work.
Okay, I was more under the impression it would be like a PMO.
So,
No. As far as the PMO, one of our thoughts to do so that we can get Guam DOE to a sustainable future is to work with them towards a PMO that would eventually take over and do CIP programs, energy efficiency programs, monitoring of energy management, water consumption, and supporting the Department of Education superintendent and all his capital investment needs, his engineering needs, and all of that. So in this process, that is our goal, is to work with the superintendent to be able to get him that capacity to make that happen. And so that's our role in this, no?
Commissioner
And
Lim
again,
am I missing something here? I don't understand how we're even involved in I can understand if it's related to, the energy savings,
it's a combination of that. Otherwise, we've done what energy savings we have. We continue to provide, get them grants and we get the grants, and then we administrate the process and got those schools to LED. So this is the bigger picture now to assist them to get all these other things. So they have reached out to us to be able to assist them. And again, all in the interest of getting the schools to that position. We volunteered to make this happen. And we're gonna work it in-house with, I guess we're gonna need some additional engineers for ourselves but it's all in the plan of the longer-term plan. The longer-term plan is that 60% of our workforce is going to retire over the next 5 to 10 years. So we're going to bring on board some of this personnel that would help manage some of these projects moving forward. Then, as engineers roll out, then we transition back down, and then we had the capacity internally to handle all of this.
But we're not getting paid by a DOE for that, or are they agreeing to carry some of these costs?
Yes,
to do so?
part of the agreement is gonna be like any other project, no? That associated, you have administration costs and you have engineering support costs. So yes, we're gonna put that in the agreement so that as people work on those projects to get it done, that we do charge our regular costs for that, to make that happen.
Okay, and how does GPA benefit from this?
GPA benefits, and the ratepayers have all these students in schools. Education is a top priority. I mean, it's your decision as the CCU. If you don't want me to do it, I can leave it alone.
No,
But as far as the
I
benefit,
hope you don't mistake
for
my
so long,
Okay, JB, I hope you don't mistake my questioning, asking these questions as
No,
not
no.
wanting to do it. I just want to
but
understand.
but I'm explaining to you now that for so long, we've always been badgered about, okay, solar, doing this, we've been trying to do the best to get energy efficiency into the schools and all that. They finally have all this money to get it done, and we see part of our vision to get it done for them, with them, not for, but with them, to make it
Help
happen.
them get it done.
And put the schools in the sustainable measure. How many legislation has there been where, okay, GPA, you will do this and do that at no cost? We're not even going to do this at no cost, because it's not, in all fairness, that's any contract that you work with federal, with grants or whatever, has a component of cost for the administration and that's all we're going to work with. So we're volunteering, no? In the interest of, again, and because for so long, again, it's always been the Commission desire also for us to help DOE. So this is a large scale. There's no way to just do a little bit. If we're going to do this right and make it successful, then this is what I'm proposing that we do. Because again, we're not going to get into this and not help them succeed. No, that's all, Commissioner.
Okay,
I didn't mean to say you're not interested. I'm just you are correctly asking a lot of the questions that need, because so that's all I need is really, if you're all on board and say go, then we're going to go and make it happen.
Yes, but John, we
and
still
I'm
need to
prepared.
see that MOU or MOA.
Well, I think, Commissioner, I mean, I need to know if yes, we're going to go. There's no use working on an MOU or an MOA if I'm not, if this is not.
No, I think I can only
Yeah.
speak for myself, but I think there's a need to try to help DOE. The very first things are the fact that we actually did spend some money, about $500,000, to come up with DSM plans for them, how they can be more energy efficient. I understand that part, and I certainly support that. I think the other side is that we were asked to assist them in terms of helping them get renewable energy to help them better manage their costs. I get that. And then there is all this money that has to be spent. If what we're doing, John, is to be helping them, but they're the ones in the driver's seat. They're the ones who make the decision on what they want to do. We're not going to tell them what to do. We're there to help them. I think that's my point. We're not, we're not there to tell them what to do. They have to decide what their priorities are, and we're going to help them. They'll have to get their own engineers to design, like they're doing right now with Simon Sanchez. But the problem, I think, is that they don't know when they're talking to their design people, they don't know what they're talking about.
And-
They,
and
they
that's where
don't,
you're
they don't
correct,
know what
Mr.
questions to ask, they don't know what to
We're
look
the
for.
owner's engineer, and we'll ask the questions and make our recommendations
To them,
to
and it's
them,
then
because
up.
at the end of the, just like the procurement that we do for ourselves, no?
Uh-huh.
The general manager at the end is the one that sends the final document for that procurement, no? Everyone it comes in and then he approves it and sends out. So similarly, will be the owner engineers, and then the superintendent will sign that out, because the procurement is gonna be under them.
Yes,
and
that's my
the
point.
cost and all of this,
They're
but-
going to do it,
But you're correct, they don't know they're not equipped to answer the questions as necessary to,
or to even figure out
get
what
this.
they're gonna do.
And yes, there's a lot of work to be done, and
Now-
and even if they were, I think, we are probably more, I can venture to say we're more effective and more efficient in getting this done, and that's why they're assisting.
Well, we have the capabilities.
Yeah.
That part I agree with. But John, here's my point. I think, to me, we're trying to assist them to fulfill their mission, but only because we have certain expertise. They're the ones who will be the ones who own this. They will be the ones who make decisions. You're not going to make decisions for them. You're simply there to assist them, and they're going to reimburse you for any costs that you expend on this purpose, right? Okay. That,
And again,
and it's a little broader than I would have liked it, but I can see the value. I mean, if you want to put it, my view is, if we want them to invest into energy efficiency and become more efficient in their buildings, you can't do that and have their buildings falling apart. So somebody has to help them spend money to put their buildings in good shape, where what the recommendations that we came up with is, I believe, an investment of about $41 million into the plan that came up from what's the name of the company? Siemens Group came up. We expended money to try to help them be more energy efficient, because that's our thing, energy efficiency. And as we try to do that, you can't put in energy efficient air conditioning units or anything if their electrical systems are falling apart, if the walls are falling down, that to me is, I understand that. Because
So that-
otherwise it doesn't work.
And I agree with you, Mr. Commissioner. A lot of these things here are being analyzed and everything by the Army Corps of Engineers, contractors, its planners, no? They come up with all of these requirements to get the school up to standards. With that, the funding comes from my understanding, from Department of Interior. So we're going to assist them in getting those things done. There are things that are engineered and everything through this process. At the same time, again, part of our experience from engineering management is to provide a roadmap, if you will, for the superintendent to get to where we need to get: energy efficient equipment, maintenance, regular maintenance of all. There's no, all this $400 million in capital investment. If you don't do maintenance on it, forget it. We'll be back here again. Well, I won't be back here 5 or 10 years from now, but the process will get back to where it is again. So there is an opportunity for, and I like to call it a partnership between Guam DOE and the utilities, because if we need some help from GWA, again, discuss this with Miguel, that could be a part of the process also, to bring them down to that path, to get to a sustainable future where the schools are, maintained at the lowest cost possible. And then from then on, look into supply side, no? After we've cut all the demand and demand cost and all of that, look at potential supply side investment as categorized by other potential or other legislation that always says GPA, you shall do this at no cost, doing this and doing that
No,
and so on.
that part
So,
doesn't work, John. We have
Yeah.
to
So
get
again,
reimbursed
yeah.
for
So-
any cost that you do. And the other thing I would tell you is, this cannot impact negatively on your mission to provide electric utility services, or on Miguel's mission to provide water and wastewater services to our ratepayers.
That's correct.
This is something you can do, but it's not going to negatively impact on your ability to provide the services we provide.
For priority one is of
and-
course
and-
our service
and-
to our customers, and
Yeah,
I don't expect that to
yeah.
be great.
Commissioner Martinez,
I
yes.
just want to recommend that we go in and move with this MOU or MOA, and then bring it before the commission.
Yeah, you have to bring it back to us, just so that we have to have a final look at it, John.
Yeah, and then we can go back with further discussions on those,
If there's something that we
I think
see.
we all have
But
an
I think we have an idea.
you know, of what we're looking at. And you
Okay.
already started the legwork, and
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just thinking now we're 1 month, 2 months away from anything, no?
John, I know, but that's why it's important that you sit down with them, and I hope they understand that it's important that they sit down with you.
Okay.
They can't be waiting. And I'm going to tell you, I support this effort from the big picture, because again, we want them to be energy efficient. We want them to not waste water at their facilities, or you know, all these things come back to hurt the people, the ratepayers. When we're wasting water or when we're wasting energy, we're negatively impacting all of our ratepayers.
Mr.
So-
Chair, I think we're all on the same page in regards to that, but from what I understand, and maybe I'm just missing something, it's far more than that. And if it benefits GPA in doing it, then I don't have an issue with it. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to understand. I mean, you got a lot on your plate, JB, with the construction of the Ukudu power plant and everything else.
I understand, but I'm saying we can do it. That's what, okay?
And
I'm
that's the
not-
point, as long as you.
I understand you're saying that reliability is not gonna decrease with this. This is gonna be engineering group that are gonna be working on this, no? It's not gonna be the operation
Okay.
team.
And you have
It's not- it's-
sufficient
It's just
capacity.
that we're always bombarded on you. What are you gonna do about DOE schools? What are you
Yeah,
gonna
we know
do about this, no? And I'm saying, okay, you have the funding, you wanna get it done, then
Okay,
we'll get it done.
okay,
But I'm just, that's where I'm coming from, no? That's all.
okay.
And so, as far as the capacity of the utility, no, I don't see that as an issue. I won't ever jeopardize the reliability
The
or
mission
the
of GPA
or
or
the
GW.
cost or anything like that of the utility, no?
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
So that's all, sir. We will prepare MOU, MOA, or the mechanism to allow this partnership, and then we'll send it to the commission.
Sure.
And let me know what you would like us to do from there, no?
okay.
So
Is there a
that's all I
motion
have,
to
Mr.
adjourn?
Chair.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.